Okay, what do you got for us today, buddy? What do you got? I know you got something for us.
Oh, okay, lots on. I was literally just focusing on the show, and I took a 1 second wiki leak, and then here you are calling me. So here we go. I've got heaps of show notes today because it's a fast-paced show, as we know.
Hmm.
Yeah. So going back to that Florida caller, so I feel really bad for her, but I feel like a lot of people are sort of acting based on fear,
Right.
and that's due to sort of what they're being fed in terms of their echo chambers and what news are being fed to them. There's a good video by Ben Swan called "Fact Checking Smear Machine." Have you seen that? The
No,
Google
tell us
Wikipedia.
about it.
Okay, I'll give you a quick video link there. Well, I'll tell you about it, and I'll send the link later. But basically, it's the whole smear machine of information that's through Google, Wikipedia, everyone's being fed basically fear. And yeah, and so that person that was attacking that Florida caller, I feel like that's kind of his mindset at the moment.
Hmm.
You should definitely check out a Netflix documentary it's got Raphael Rowe in it. It's called Inside the World's Toughest Prisons. Have you got Netflix at all?
Yeah, I do. I got Netflix, and I used to watch those prison shows. They were okay, but I mean, it gets kind of old after a while, you know.
The reason why I mentioned it is people should watch that and just focus on the psychology of prisoners, because at the moment our planet is quickly becoming a prison, an open air prison, and the psychology of those prisoners, it goes on with things like, you're dobbing on your neighbors, you're doing this. So what happened with that girl in Florida? That's what's happening with that person's mindset. He's not necessarily a bad person, but he's acting on fear and what he's been fed in his newsreel, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
So that's where you should definitely check out a video by Ben Swan and Mickey Willis. It's called Fact Checking Smear Machine, the Google Wikipedia Fact Checking Smear Machine, because there are a lot of people out there that are just basically being fed the official narrative only. I actually, thanks to you, you told me last time I called into the show, you told me to get more active and actually do some real footage out there, not just like filming in my room. So I actually did a quick video yesterday when I'm driving around Auckland, and I'm showing you how empty Auckland is at the moment.
Hmm.
And I go and talk about, I do an open rant about old versus new money, because I think I've figured out what's happening, what the end game is at the moment. I think there's a power struggle between old versus new money. So basically, old money is the monarchy, who are quickly losing ground to things like corporations, and in this case, there's
Oh, let me just say something. Apple's GDP is bigger than New Zealand and Australia's put together.
that's true, but see, you've got corporations in place, so that's where capitalism comes in. But you also have things like new money, so you've got big influence from people like the CCP, Chinese Communist Party, and who are quickly buying up property around the world so that they can gain influence, power. They're buying people out in terms of key positions. So I think that's what's happening. I figured it out, and I go into detail about this in my video log on my channel. But I think I've figured out what's happening. So what's happening is there's a lot of elites, so it could be the CCP or someone else. They're stacking up their cash, or they've got heaps of cash, but they're waiting to crash the economy so that they can, buy things pennies on the dollar. And I think that's what's happening. What do you reckon?
I'm thinking that's been in play. I think since like the mid '90s, they've been trying to run something like this for the longest time. Because we did see a reset during the battle. Remember, I don't know if you remember the Battle of Waterloo there, where Napoleon lost the war, and then they went ahead and started fudging the numbers. I don't know if you remember that, and then that basically put England in debt for the next billion years, and they've done it since they did it in the crash, the Black Thursday there. Was it Black Friday or Black Thursday down in the late 20s, and then they redid it in the 80s, 81, 82, but it was more of the stocks. It was more buying into the stocks, more buying into the commodities markets. It was different. Now it's in the damn real estate, our damn homes.
Yeah.
Because we open
But
up
yeah,
our countries to free trade. And look what's free trade has done. Back in the days, people would launder money. They would open a store in the mall that no one visits, but they'll still pay the infrastructure. They'll pay for the fees. They'll pay this. They'll pay the mall administration. They'll pay their rent. They'll pay their taxes, and they'll wash a bit of money. Now, they're just shadow flipping houses back and forth.
Exactly. So there we've focused on the problem. I'm a real solutionist kind of thinker. So that's the problem, right? So I'm all about problem solution. So I was thinking about this all yesterday and since I last called in. Solutions. What do you reckon? So think about previous battles in history. There are two strategies that I'm thinking that people can sort of gain ground back. So there's the Robin Hood strategy, where all the pirates did this as well, where you're basically taunting your enemy in little pockets of resistance, but it's ongoing, it's persistent, so you're gaining ground here and there, and you're recruiting as you grow the resistance. So that's the Robin Hood / pirate strategy. And the reason why I mentioned that is your first caller from Craig from New Zealand, he called in earlier.
Yeah.
He mentioned that a lot of Kiwis, especially in the first lockdown, they were flaunting the lockdown rules. Now that we're in the second wave of the lockdown, what I've noticed, and again, I went out with my camera yesterday and I actually filmed Auckland streets on a Friday night. I've noticed there were a lot of cars on the road, but there's obviously no pedestrians because, people have fear of being fined on the spot, things like that. But see, the beauty about driving around in your car is you can get away really quickly if there's danger that's coming in, right?
Right.
So I noticed there was a lot of car traffic, and I was like surprised because we're in lockdown. I noticed a lot of car traffic, but obviously not many foot traffic. So that's one solution strategy, is you're almost not signing up to the plan, but you're doing it very strategically, on the low key, that sort of thing. Think of Nazi Germany when people used to hide the Jewish inside walls and things. So, you're doing things at the moment, because what's happened is we've had this big change in our society now, and there's a military term called tactical retreat. So everyone has gone, whoa, what's happened, right? And so we've gone 2 steps back. We're in tactical retreat. Now we're in a position to go, okay, this is what's happened. Some people are questioning the narrative. Some people are following the narrative. But there's a good enough pocket to go, okay, now we're going to make our move on the chessboard. And I think that's really important for people to gather and make their move to kind of sort of counter back on that.
Right. I mentioned this last week. I don't know. There wasn't a lot of Mike in the Night, but it was on Trends in the Housing Market. We need to take a step back and gather our forces and recommunicate another strategy. We talked about this. We need to cease fire, step back, look at what our options are, and go forward again, right? But I have 3 words for you, my friend.
Yes.
Wuhan pool party. Right there. That's going to throw everything under the bus that they told us, and that's going to put everything under the bus that they expect us to believe.
Well, liberties are not essential, but pool parties are, right?
There was, 7,000 people in that pool? No, it was 3,000 people in that pool, and there was 70,000 people out on the street. On
that same note, Auckland actually had their first lockdown protest yesterday, which
really?
A girl, it's on my channel as well. There's a girl called Sarah Smith who filmed it, and then what I did is I took the video and kind of zhushed it up with graphics and things like that, because I think protests need to be sexy, you know what I mean? Not just like a camera footage and things like that. You need to kind of make it like a newsroom and make it sexy, so that it's talkative, talkable, tweetable, that kind of thing. So I took her footage, and then what I did, and get this, I added subtitles to the full 8-minute speech by Will Ryan. He's a really good activist in New Zealand. Check him out. And I took his speech, and I actually took time to do subtitles. The reason why I did this is I noticed that our mainstream media, the New Zealand Herald, actually picked up on the same story. But what they did is they took two sentences from his speech, and then they used it so that they can sort of portray it for their own political agenda. So these are the 2 sentences they took from his 8-minute speech. The NZ Herald, which is a mainstream newspaper in New Zealand, said, oh, there was one talker and he said, we are not crazy people, ... but people can believe what they want, and that's it. Ignoring the full context of his speech.
Well, they do that all the time.
But other parts of his speech, the meat and bones of his speech, was actually very, very good. He talks about liberties. He talks about things like, going back to the Wuhan pool party. A week before, there was a protest in Auckland where 2,000 plus protesters turned up at the Aotea Square to protest Black Lives Matter.
Right. We covered that here on the show.
In that protest, they were like, yeah, you're all right. There's no cases of COVID. You're fine. But then as soon as the political thing, thing went another way. So in this case, people were protesting specifically about being locked down and how unlawful that was. Then they're like, no, actually, no, you can't gather in groups of more than 10.
Right.
So it's like it's a convenient politicized tool where they can go, you can do this, you can do that.
But you just can't order KFC.
Well, there is actually, and I sent it to you on your chat on your Skype. There's a video at the moment where there's between a policeman and a woman. The police says, under the COVID-19 health order, you are breaching the order by gathering in a public place, which the woman simply replied with, so we have no democratic rights. And the policeman said, you have no democratic rights in terms of that.
Wow.
Have you seen that video?
So that COVID thing is a blanket. So they're blanking it in a way to mask, to trump people's rights, right? And we know that. We've known that for months here on the channel. But now they're getting to a point where have they forced you, Ralphie, to download an application for your phone or something yet?
My employer has forced me so that I can work from home. I've had that. But going back to my train of thought, right? So I don't want to create a movement where we're against the police because they are part of our communities. I actually know a few policemen and other people that work for the government. One guy's I used to be in a band with her. She was our singer, and now she's, in the police. I play at local markets, and the camera woman.
No, I understand. I'm not against. 97% of the police out there are really good people.
Absolutely,
they always check on me at my store. They come on me, Mike, are you okay? You doing okay? They always check on me. They have coffee with me at my shop, and then they go on their way, and
Exactly. But what I want to do is rather than a sort of a spread fire, if we're going to fight back, just remember that they are part of our communities. It's not them that we want to target. You kind of want a laser target to who you actually need to be looking for, because it's the people that are in positions of power. So they put key people in positions of the police, that sort of thing. Those key positions are the ones you need to look out for, not the general, police community.
Police are boots on the ground. They're on the ground with us, right?
Exactly.
And you're talking about 7 layers up. You're talking about 8 layers up.
Yeah, I mean, look, I actually, my YouTube channel was originally about making music production, gaming. I wanted it to be a bit more fun. But now with this whole COVID lockdown thing, my brain is going 100 miles an hour because all this stuff is happening. And I'm thinking, actually, the videos I need to be making right now are what's happening now. And so actually you're a big part of that because you told me at our last chat to actually get out there and film. And so that's what I've done. So you're a big part of this movement, Mike, and I thank you for what you're doing.
Well, it's about talking. And what do we do here? Talk. We're just talking. We're talking, and this is how things get solved. This is how things get enacted. This is how things get put into place. This is how things get spread, is by having a conversation and getting, a one-on-one, getting 193 people watching us right now live, and then we got 766 people watching us in Eastern Europe on another streaming platform. So, that's how it works.
Do you know why talking is beautiful there, Mike? It's because back in the day when you had those old warfares, if you had a town and a neighboring town and there was an upcoming attack, they would go up on the hills and they would put smoke, what do they call it?
Signals.
smoke signals to the neighboring towns. That's what we need to be doing in the Commonwealth. So it's really important to be talking in platforms like this around the Commonwealth, because there is the same strategy that's happening now, and we need to be sending those smoke signals. What do you reckon?
Oh, buddy, you know how many people in the States messaged me that they never knew that there was a BLM protest in New Zealand until they saw my show? Or in Australia?
Last week.
Like, what? In Australia? In New Zealand? I'm like, wow, I only found that out on your channel, Mike.
There is and I know this strategy. This is part of the strategy, and this is on my blog at ralphe.co.nz. I actually told you very quickly that I saw some things in 2013 when I was a waiter for politicians, Bill and Hillary Clinton Foundation.
Yeah.
Remember that? Also, Hollywood parties, I got to do them. Bankers, so much to talk about on the show, but I'll keep it brief and streamlined for now. Right? But here's what I think is what was I getting at? Here's what I think was happening. There was a talk that I went to, a charity I was doing a waiter for, right? And I was one of the 3 waiters that got to stay in, pour people water, but this was otherwise a closed talk, okay? It was the chicken charity, October 2013. But the reason why I bring this one in particular, there was a couple of bankers, they were raising funds, £400,000 for the cause of changing young lives through theatre, right? But what they do is they reenact these stories, and what was happening on stage is all these kids, various ages, singing and dancing, and mainly, talking, singing and dancing in front of banker-type individuals. But it etched on my mind, because what happened on stage is they had this sort of monologue which said, one of the actors said, to prepare a nation for war, you must first instill hatred, anger, fear, racism, and divide. Right? Mm-hmm. So movements like Black Lives Matter, it's all about divide and conquer, the oldest strategy in the military book.
Well, yeah. If you read The Art of War, just sit up on the mountain and watch them fight over each other. You don't have to do a damn thing. There was a episode of Twilight Zone where basically a bunch of aliens were watching us from space, and then they said, "How do we invade them?" Well, let's let them destabilize themselves. And they started doing things in the show. The aliens were doing things on the ground, but they were blaming each other as neighbors. And then before you know it, the whole town's fighting against each other, and the aliens are looking back and laughing at it, that there was nothing to do because they were doing it to themselves.
Exactly. So going back to solutions, guys, we've taken 2 steps back as part of the tactical retreat.
Regroup.
Now it's time to make our moves. This is what I recommend. So 1, obviously, as part of the Commonwealth ring, we need to be talking in platforms like this so that we can tell our neighboring villages, smoke signals, right? Mm-hmm. That's one solution. And it's also a recruitment process, because there is a war on for people's minds. So there's basically 2 stories being told, and you're either going left or right. But think of Nazi Germany. Which side of history do you want to be part of?
Right.
Okay, so there's that. And there's another solution, is you need to prepare because there is a storm coming. So hunker down and take care of the basics. I'm talking about food. So what I'm doing at home, I'm working on a garden, edible food, things like that, because you don't want to be like that video that you showed early on in the show today, where people are fighting over rice cookers. You don't want to be part of that mob.
Yeah, that was in North Calgary, Alberta.
And people back, in the previous world wars, maintaining a garden, that's what they did. And it's not that hard, guys. If you're new to gardening, I'm actually new to gardening myself. If you're new to gardening, it's not that hard. What you do is you just get a couple of seeds if you need to. You get what's called peat pellets. You put the seeds in there. Watch all sorts of tutorials on YouTube and things like that about
YouTube's
gardening.
Good for that.
Away you go. It's not hard, people. Grow gardens, please, because you need to hunker down because there's a storm coming.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay, Ralphie. I'm going to let you go, buddy. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Keep making videos. Put a link in your in the comments here so we could get to your YouTube channel.
Quick
Yeah.
plug if I can. So as you can see behind me, I am a musician, so I'm on Spotify, Ralphe Souvenirs, or check out ralphe.co.nz. But Mike, before I go, I actually became a thing on your YouTube.
You joined the channel.
$2.99.
That's right. You joined the channel. Thank you so much. And that money
We
will
got
be
to
good.
feed the energy. We got to
Feed the energy.
We got to feed the energy. So you're doing a great job, mate.
Don't forget to leave your link in the comments there, okay?
Will do.
God
Thank
bless you.
God bless everyone.
Ciao, ciao. All right, guys, that is Ralphie on the show, giving us an insight on what is happening in his neck of the woods. And yeah, he's right. It's about regrouping. Let's regroup and talk. This is what we're doing here. We're talking. It's one of the most basic forms of communication. Actually, hand signals were the most basic forms of communication. You know what I'm saying?